first thing we're going to do, we are going to update our timeline so that we know what is going on.
Wait, whose point of view was chapter 6 and 7?
Nellie until the end of 7. Okay? Yes. I do not have blank paper. You know what? Let me go. Hang on. I'll go steal us some. Chill out, guys. I'm not robbing anybody.
You should have been out. That ice was horrible. They didn't do a good job at all. I saw
So much. I know. I never told you like 5 there. I was like, I'm gonna grab the stack. Anybody else need a blank sheet of paper? Yeah. You'll take one? You guys, it's the school paper for the school. I'm not technically doing anything for any grades.
I got some.
Yes!
I asked for Christmas 2 years ago.
Okay. So, what'd you do? That is gorgeous! Who did that? Saloni! That is beautiful! Saloni! You should like sell calculator decorations. You guys, it's so hard to get the camera in the right angle. Okay, so really quickly. What's our first event?
Is it Pat goes to... No, Pat and Henley both go to... People go to...
What? Alright, really good. Now listen up. You guys are going to get so sick of this timeline. I get it. You're going to be like, Miss Turner, why every day with the timeline? Why do you hate us? It's so obnoxious. I want you to be so sick of it that it is ingrained in your head. Okay? So yes, I realize this is going to be a really mundane way to start class, but we're just going to do it. Okay? It's meant to help you. First event, Earnshaw arrives with who? Good. Then what happens?
Kathy,
We're okay, yes, know it, but we're not gonna put it on this one. We'll drop things as we go.
They get sick.
The kids get sick. Then what?
Earnshaw dies.
Mrs. Earnshaw dies. Then what?
The horse trade is.
Do it. I'm putting trade in quotes because it was like a little sketchy how he got that trade right. He's like, I'm trading your horse through manipulation and blackmail. Oh, he gets the horse. Yeah. He gets the horse. He just has to take a beating to get it. Okay. Then what?
Henley gets sent.
Good. Henley gets sent away. Okay, now we don't find out about it until after Mr. Earnshaw dies, but what happens between Henley getting sent away and Mr. Earnshaw dying?
Henley gets married.
Henley gets married. Then, good. Good. Yeah, you're not supposed to like Henley. Let's paint my favorite, I say that word sarcastically, moment about Henley, and I just want to make sure that you noticed this, is on page 59, and this is at the Christmas dinner, right after Heathcliff throws the hot applesauce at Edgar, which was amazing, right? We all laughed. We're like, yes, Edgar, get that applesauce thrown at you, big punk. the paragraph reads, Mr. Earnshaw, meaning Hindley, snatched up the culprit. Who's the culprit? Heathcliff. Directly and conveyed him to his chamber, where doubtless he administered a rough remedy to cool the fit of passion, for he reappeared red and breathless. He beats Heathcliff, a 12-year-old boy, so hard that he shows up red in the face and out of breath.
And doesn't he like tell the women like, oh, if you want to do it too, it's okay.
Take the law into your own hands. Nothing gets your blood up like beating Heathcliff. Hey, this isn't just like he got spanked and put to bed without dinner. Hindley is red in the face and out of breath from beating this kid. Are you supposed to like Hindley?
No.
No, I am sorry, but he has no redeeming qualities. He has been obnoxious since we met him, and now we have like concrete reasons to be like, dang, that is some pretty harsh treatment.
It's like this chapter, we like actually felt bad for Heathcliff, but then we realized he actually beats us.
Yeah, so again, it's that whole like trickiness with the like where we find things out, where if you can read this chapter and not feel bad for this little boy, where is your heart? Where is your compassion? As a reader of the entire novel, you're then like, yeah, but he beats his daughter-in-law, so I can't feel that much compassion. But for him as a child, are you supposed to feel compassion for Heathcliff?
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
So Hindley's not alive anymore, or at least not like.
Not in Lockwood's day.
Okay.
Okay? So you can imagine all of this stuff, like everything up to here. Lockwood doesn't actually enter the story till like here. You know, because remember, when he reads the diary, he's reading about stuff that happened 25 years ago. When Nellie is talking to him in the chapters you read over the weekend, she's even like, oh, I want to skip over 3 years. And he's like, no, don't skip 3 years. I must know everything there is to know about this family. And he like,
He instead only skips like a few months.
yeah, to like a summer or something like that, right? So he wants like all these details, but all of this stuff that he's gonna read, he doesn't show up till all the way down here. Like he's at the end of the timeline. Like this much of the book actually happens, like is about events that are occurring once he arrives.
So what does Lockwood like really want to know about this? He's just curious.
He is, yeah, Lockwood is curious, he's bored, he needs something, like to him, this is all entertainment, right? Like he gets stuck out in that snowstorm, did you catch how he was like, oh, I think I'm gonna have a really bad cold?
Yeah.
Or he's like, I'm getting sick. Basically, he's too sick to do anything, so like sitting around and listening to Nellie is what he's gonna do. It's like us, when you're sick and you can't do anything but like watch Netflix or scroll through TikTok or whatever.
He doesn't have Netflix.
He doesn't have any of that. All he's got is Nellie. Okay, and let's be honest, Nellie has some good stories. She has got the tea. Okay.
I have a question that's not related to that. So does Edgar end up like passing away? Because we know Heathcliff marries Isabel.
Yeah, we already know Edgar and Isabel are dead by the time Lockwood gets there. Remember on our family tree, the only people living are
I
Heathcliff.
was just wondering, like, if Heathcliff became the owner of the house just because
Yeah.
everyone died.
Kind of.
Okay.
Okay.
How much older is Hindley than Heathcliff?
8 years. So imagine a 20-year-old beating up a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm like, doesn't like Nellie like kind of get mad at Heathcliff towards the end because he wants to like beat Edgar because he's so jealous of him.
Well, and like Nellie is I think Nellie's the most interesting character in this
Yeah.
book. Okay. She wants Heathcliff to be better, right? She's like, I want him to be better than he is, but she understands that given the influences on him, what hope does he have? Let's finish with our timeline real quick, and then we'll get into like Nellie and the way that she treats Heathcliff. Okay, so Hindley returns, and then we get the Catherine and Heathcliff run away.
To Thrushcross Green.
Yep.
And they're like, go away, Heathcliff.
They don't want him there, and they get him with the dog.
Say dog attack number 3.
Wait, number 3.
Well, Lockwood is attacked by dogs twice, right?
Oh yeah.
When he first comes to Wuthering Heights. Kathy gets attacked by the dog at Thrushcross Grange. Right? Yeah.
I have a thing for Catherine's diary. Where should I put that?
Her diary starts here.
Yeah, you gotta just draw like a.
Yeah. Your little subline. Okay. But now that subline has become our main line. Right? Because we're kind of picking up at that time point.
So, we know what kind of dogs these are. If they're like.
Bulldogs.
So, like, what Nelly talked about, is like exactly the same event that was talked about in the diary.
Yep.
Okay.
Didn't she stay for 5 weeks?
Yeah, she's gone, I think it's 6. Okay. So we're gonna say 5 to 6 weeks. She returns. And then, like, you know, within a week or 2 is Christmas dinner. If we want to do like a more detailed series of events, we have applesauce, feeding, crying. Kathy's crying at dinner. Dancing.
So, how does Henley find out about Catherine being like having to stay at? Oh, because the Lintons told him.
Yeah. So 2 things happen. Heathcliff comes home and tells Nellie, "Hey, Catherine's at the Lintons. You know, she got bitten by the dog. Blah blah." But we know because of Nellie's narration who showed up the next day at Wuthering Heights to scold
the
Henley.
Lintons.
Yeah, Mr. Linton shows up and basically is like, "Henley, grow up. These are your children. For all intents and purposes, you are the father figure now. And it's your job to make sure these kids go to church, that they're well dressed. This little, like, ruffian that you have running around in your family was in my house last night cursing a blue streak. Who is she? Charlotte Turner?" You know, Charlotte kind of curses a blue streak. Actually, it's calmed down recently. I don't think she said any bad words this weekend. I know, right? It's like that's a shocking turn of events. But these things, you know, he basically is like, you need to take better care of your kids.
And then doesn't he like kind of like change Kathy to be this like
Wow.
respectable,
Who he are you talking about?
Linton.
Yes.
Yeah, she becomes like a lady.
Yes. That 5 or 6 weeks that she's gone changes who she is. How do we see that when she returns? What are the details that Bronte gives us that show us she is not who she was when she left?
Don't she wear gloves?
She's dressed differently. She's got gloves on and nice silk clothes.
I was gonna say the gloves.
Yeah, acts differently towards Heathcliff. Okay, so let's look at this a little bit. This is page 54 and 55. So she shows up, and you know she's looking at everybody. She says, "Is Heathcliff not here?" And she's pulling off her gloves. And then Henley says, "Heathcliff, you may come forward. Come and wish Miss Catherine welcome, like the other servants." Did you underline that? Because you should have. Like the other servants. Henley is positioning Heathcliff in front of Catherine. He's like orchestrating their first meeting, right? Everybody's like, what are the 2 of them going to be like when they see each other again? How's this going to go? Henley is orchestrating it so that Catherine sees Heathcliff as a servant. You may greet her like the other servants. And Kathy does this, you know, she flies to embrace him, bestows 7 or 8 kisses on his cheek within the second, and then stopped and drawing back, burst into a laugh, exclaiming, "How very black and cross you look! How funny and grim!"
She's making fun of him.
Yeah, does she look at him with the same eyes that she did before?
No.
She even says, "I'm used to Edgar and Isabella Linton." The way she sees him has changed.
And he knows that.
And he knows it. You know, Earnshaw says, "Shake hands, that's permitted." And then he was like, I'm not going to stand to be laughed at. I'm not going to bear it. He feels ridiculed. And that's where she's like, but you're so dirty. She gazed concernedly at the dusky fingers she held in her own, and also at her dress, which she feared had gained no embellishment from its contact with his. She's like, oh, did you get my clothes dirty? How is he going to feel?
Not good.
Like literally like dirt, right? Like she's like, oh, I touched you. Am I dirty now? She does not see him in the same way. And that's why he does it. I mean, he's a kid still.
They're not trauma buddies anymore.
Yeah, they're not trauma buddies anymore. She's had a different experience. And then he's all like, well, I'm going to be as dirty as I want to, right? Like stamps off. She's like, oh, dirt's the thing that bothers you? Well, I'm going to be as dirty as I want. I don't need you. I don't want you.
Is he even allowed to shower with?
Well, cleanliness was not really a high priority. And Nellie even says, like, people his age, children aren't going to bathe unless you make them, right? Like, I'm pretty sure Charlotte's bath that she took yesterday was the first one she'd had in like 6 days.
It's okay.
I mean, she wasn't physically dirty. It's not like it was summer, but I was like, girl, you need to bathe. Okay, it's getting gross in here. Or was that Sunday? When did she? I think she did her bath Sunday. I can't remember. Anyway, it had been a while. Let's just put it that way. It had been a while. So he's choosing like I want to be dirty as a way of kind of saying like I don't need you or your opinion of me. I'm gonna be what I am. Like take it or leave it. Now, does he uphold that feeling? No. You know, he wants to. You know, I want to be. He says to Nellie, like, I want to be good. You know, dress me up. You know, help me get clean. I want to impress Catherine. I want to be good enough for her. Go ahead.
Does Catherine even realize that her own perception of Heathcliff has changed?
I don't think so. I do not think she's self-aware or able to see anything outside of her own point of view enough to understand the way that I think of him has changed or the way that he's different has changed. And I think that's why that Christmas dinner is so difficult for her because, like, on the one hand, she enjoys the life that she's had with the Lintons. She likes the nice, you know, clothes and the fancy things. But she's also, like, Nellie even says, like, oh, she was so heartless, she didn't even care about Heathcliff being beaten. But we see her crying at dinner. Does Catherine care about Heathcliff?
Yeah, I mean, she literally
Yes.
climbed onto the roof. Like,
Yes, she climbs onto the roof to sneak out to be with him. Right? Like,
How did
she...
get inside of the locked chamber.
When she climbs out through the roof, he opens the window from the inside, and she sneaks in through that window. And then Nellie, who's gone upstairs to give Heathcliff food because she is a compassionate, you know, person, realizes that Catherine's inside. Now, Nellie does something very interesting when she realizes that the two of them are upstairs together when they're not supposed to.
Doesn't she like coax Catherine to like come out because the singing starting to stop?
Yeah, she says at the top of 61, I let the poor things converse unmolested, till I supposed the songs were going to cease and the singers to get some refreshment. Then I climbed up the ladder to warn her. Nellie's like, I let them see each other, even though I wasn't supposed to. Nellie is knowingly going against the commands of whom? Her boss. This is the same Nellie that we see refusing to serve Lockwood dinner when he wants to serve it, or when he wants to be served. Nellie has a habit of what?
Breaking rules.
Breaking the rules. Where did Heathcliff sleep the very first night he was in this house?
On the floor.
And who was supposed to make sure he was in bed?
Her.
Her. Is Nellie an obedient servant?
No.
No, she is not.
She like reacts to her emotions.
Yes, she does what she wants to do. There's an interesting element of transgression to her. When you cross lines or cross boundaries that you're not supposed to. And it's not just that she like becomes an accomplice to Kathy and Heathcliff doing things they're not supposed to. I want to look at when she talks to Heathcliff, when he's like trying to get pretty, like the makeover scene on 57 and 58. Go ahead.
What does it mean when like she let them go if they're unmolested, like unbeaten?
Unbothered. Like no one was gonna bother them.
I took that a different way.
Yeah, you were like, molestation. What's happening in this book? Don't worry, it wasn't that. Okay, so Nellie is trying to like make over Heathcliff, right? It's like, you know, our Queer Eye episode. And she says in the middle of 57, I have dinner ready. I'll steal time to arrange you so that Edgar Linton shall look quite a doll beside you. You're younger, and yet I'll bound you're taller, twice as broad across the shoulders. You could knock him down in a twinkling. Don't you feel you could? What is she trying to do to Heathcliff here? Build him up. Hey, you're buff. Okay, like you are like handsome Squidward, and Edgar is like regular Squidward. Okay, like you like look at the two of you. Clearly, you are more of a what than Edgar? Man. You know, she is appealing to Heathcliff's sense of masculinity.
And like even when Heathcliff like is like, I don't have his looks and stuff, like you know, Nellie's actually like, you know, yeah, you don't have his looks, but you don't have power.
Yeah, but you don't need them, right? Because Heathcliff's like, if I knocked him down 20 times, that wouldn't make him less handsome. That's not going to change the way I look. I wish I had light hair and a fair skin and a chance of being as rich as he is. I wish that I looked like him.
Because he thinks that Kathy's in love with him.
Yes. And then Nellie says, oh yeah, and then you'd cry for your mother at every turn. Come on, Heathcliff, like your looks are not the most important thing. Now what's interesting is at the bottom of 57, she says, do you mark those two lines between your eyes and those thick brows that instead of rising arched sink in the middle? She says, look, when you look at your face, you do this. You've got this line between your eyes, your brows arch toward the middle instead of, you know, having an open face or an expressive face. She's like, it's not just your looks, it's what you do with your facial expressions, right? Like
he's upset and he shows it.
Yes, and it's like you appear closed off. She says, oh, go ahead.
He has resting, you know what.
He does, right? And if I were him, I probably would too. I got him like literally beating me at every turn. You know, I went from being the favored child in the household to being like rejected in every possible way. I'm a servant. I'm treated like dirt. Maybe I would have, you know, a resting, you know what face too. Okay? Although I feel like, you know, we threw that word around so casually in week 1 of this book, and now we're like, no, we can't say it. Context, right? Context is everything. But look at this. She says, that couple of black fiends so deeply buried who never open their windows boldly, but lurk glinting under them like devil's spies. What is she describing? His eyes. She says your eyes are like black fiends lurking like a pair of devil's spies. Is that a positive description? No. And it's another description that aligns Heathcliff with who? Yeah. There's one of those like potentially supernatural, like your eyes look like you're literally a spy for Satan. Basically like brighten up your face and people will treat you better. Go ahead.
On 59, when he says, be gone, you vagabond.
Yeah.
What is a vagabond?
A vagabond is a person without a home.
Oh.
A vagabond is somebody who, like, have you ever heard the term vagrant? Like a vagrant travels around, you know, from place to place, staying where they can, when they can.
Yeah.
So when he says begone vagabond, he's saying, you know, literally that's who you are.
Like go without a home.
Go away. Okay, so Nellie just says, change the fiends to innocent angels, and it'll make a world of difference. Quit looking for the what in people. The worst. If you didn't look at people, waiting for them to hurt you, people would treat you differently. Now, what is the big flaw in that advice that Nellie is giving to Heathcliff?
You can't trust everyone.
Well, and particularly for Heathcliff,
You can't trust anyone. He expects to be look for the worst.
because all he gets is the worst. Nellie literally says to him, quit looking at people as if they're about to beat you.
When all he is.
That's all he gets. How is he supposed to just be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna look for the best in people. I'm not gonna look to be abused. I'm not gonna look to be hurt. I'm not gonna look to be belittled. I mean, because think about it. When they show up at the Lintons' house, did you pay attention to the language that was used to describe him? I mean, you guys, it is rough. Okay, we get the gypsy thing in there again, but there's also, let's see, and he's, you know, they're 12. At the bottom of page 49, he looks an out and outer. They accuse him of being a robber. Hold your tongue. You shall go to the gallows for this. What are they threatening to do?
Kill him.
Kill him. The very next paragraph says, the villain scowls so plainly, would it not be a kindness to the country to hang him at once before he shows his nature and acts?
It says put him in the cellar.
Yeah, they're literally are saying we should hang him right now because he looks like he deserves to be hanged. We don't need to wait for him to act like a criminal.
They called him a heathen.
Yeah.
Wicked boy.
And they're like, he's cursing, he should, like it's all like, they're literally ready to hang him because he looks like bad news. It'll save the state a lot of trouble if we hang him now before he fulfills what he looks like. They do not see him as what? Human.
I think he's like an animal.
They think he's an animal. They treat him like an animal. They're basically like, he's like a rabid dog we should just destroy. Yeah, put him in the cellar. A wicked boy, not fit for a decent house. He hears these things about himself. And when you hear something about yourself, does it have an impact on you?
Yeah.
Even if you only hear it once, can it affect the way you see yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
At the bottom of 51, it says Heathcliff received no flogging. What's flogging?
Beating.
Oh, I thought it was like a type of beating.
It's like a whip.
Oh.
To flog somebody is to beat them with a whip. Back to, let's see, 58. When Nellie's trying to convince him, like, all you need to do is look better, she does this thing where she says, if I were you, and I didn't know who my parents were, if I didn't know what my background was, I would make up a wonderful history for myself. She says, how do you know that you're not a prince in disguise? Your father could have been the emperor of China, your mother an Indian queen. I would frame high notions of my birth if I were you. So here is yet another piece of evidence that Heathcliff is not what?
White.
He's not white. Her examples are of people who are not white. Your father could have been the emperor of China, your mother an Indian queen. And she says, look, just because you're not white doesn't mean that you aren't what?
Human.
But even more than human.
It's like I have status.
Yes, you could have status. Like you could be a prince. Like Nellie is the only person in his life that treats him like a human being. Why does she do that?
Because she sees past his race.
She sees past his race. She sees past his lack of a family.
And she has empathy for him.
She has empathy for him. And when you feel empathy for somebody, it's like, okay, we share a common ground. What common ground do they share?
Is Nellie also not white? Or would it have been mentioned?
So because of the time period of the book, I'm going to say because it's not mentioned, we can assume she is. And in northern England, in the 1700s, 99% of people are going to be white, right? I think it would say it if she weren't. Because it says it when Heathcliff isn't. What's the commonality that Nellie and Heathcliff have? They are both servants. Okay?
So they have a common ground.
There's a common ground for them to stand on. Both of them are servants.
But she's more respected than him.
Yes, and so it's interesting because she's a servant, but she's raised as one of the Earnshaw children, right? She's really close with Hindley. Mr. Earnshaw brings her a present when he comes back from Liverpool. I mean, it's just fruit. So it's she's a child, but she has lesser status. And then here's Heathcliff, brought in as a child, a part of the family, yet still somehow an outsider.
Well, he was only really a part of the family with Mr. Earnshaw.
Yeah, only until Earnshaw dies. And then once Earnshaw dies, Hindley's like, oh, it's your rightful place to be a servant. Hope you enjoy it.
Have fun.
Have fun with that. Now, I do want to point out, we, at this point where Nellie is telling us the story of what happens at Thrushcross Grange, she is telling us what she knows secondhand through Heathcliff. So when we first meet Edgar and Isabella Linton, whose point of view are we getting? Heathcliff's. does that shape and influence how we see them?
Yeah.
Because what is Heathcliff's attitude towards Edgar and Isabella?
They suck.
Oh my God, they suck. They're so obnoxious,
They're
right?
so much better than that.
And then when they show up, do they fulfill that attitude? Yeah, I think they do. Edgar comes in and starts making fun of Heathcliff's hair. You know, he's like, yeah, he needs his haircut. He looks like a horse.
He deserves to have the applesauce though.
Oh, I do not care. Edgar gets thrown, that applesauce gets thrown at him. I don't feel bad for him.
That was kind of funny.
I literally do not care. Throw applesauce at him. He's a jerk.
At like what time do the first and second dog attacks happen?
They're over there after Lockwood arrives.
Chronologically,
Okay,
they're
so
not.
but
Like, in the order that we read in the book, that's like chapter 1 and 2.
right.
Chronologically, 1801.
But-
We're back here in like 1775
But that's the third dog attack.
that we read about.
Okay.
So in your head,
So
like,
the first one, like
it's technically, it's the first one timeline, but for us as readers, it's number 3.
Got it.
Like, if you're keeping track, how many times do dogs attack people in this book? This is the 3rd time I've read about it.
Okay.
But it's the first one that happens chronologically. Okay? I'm never going to ask you to, like, distinguish the difference between those two on a test. I'm going to be like, is it the 3rd chronologically or the 3rd you read about? Like, that's just nonsense, right? Like, don't worry, guys. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not trying to torture you with Emily Bronte, despite what you might think. All right?
But didn't you just say? Didn't
What?
You say that yourself though?
Say what?
Like that we're trying to torture us. It was a joke.
Did I say it? I probably did. I wouldn't put anything past me. Anyway, so where am I? We have, okay, so we meet them through Heathcliff. He has a negative perception. And I mean, Edgar and Isabella aren't bad. They're just like wimpy, spoiled, rich kids. You know, even when they come to Wuthering Heights from church, they're riding in a carriage. Kathy's on horseback. She's not somebody who wants to be like pampered and protected. Like, remember, Mrs. Linton is like, well, my kids can come to your house, but only if they don't have to see that Heathcliff boy.
Yeah.
I don't want them to have like that negative influence.
Don't they see him anyways?
Yeah, they see him anyways because of Nellie. You know, Hindley doesn't want him there.
But if it's like Christmas dinner, where was he supposed to eat? Like, was he just
In the
supposed to
kitchen
eat-
with Nellie and Joseph. But listen to this. There's something there are a couple. Oh, there's so much. I'm gonna run out of time. On page 60. Sorry, 61, not 60, but 61. This is after Heathcliff has been sent off to the attic, and after Nellie warns Catherine, "Hey, you need to get out of here. You're gonna get sick." Nellie brings him down to the kitchen, and he's not eating, right? Because he's been beaten. Like, he's not in the mood to eat. He doesn't feel like eating.
He's like a pretty little.
And he says to Nellie, "I'm trying to settle how I shall pay Hindley back." What's he thinking about?
He's gonna kill him.
I'm gonna get him. I don't care how long I wait, if I can only do it at last. I hope he will not die before I do.
What does that mean? Like, wouldn't he want him to die beforehand?
No, 'cause
He
he's gonna
wants to
kill
kill
him.
him. I want revenge on him. I hope he doesn't die of natural causes before I get the chance to get it.
Oh, okay.
I don't care how long I have to wait. Heathcliff is in it for the long haul. He doesn't need revenge now. He's like, I'm 12, he's 20. I'm a kid, he's an adult. I'm not gonna get it now. He's physically stronger than me right now. Eventually, he won't be.
Yeah, when he's like old and
Yeah, and I'll be able to get, and if I have to wait that long, I don't care. I'm willing to wait. We already know, what is Heathcliff willing to do to get what he wants? Suffer. He will suffer. He says, Nellie's like, oh, for shame, it's God's, God punishes wicked people. And Heathcliff's like, God won't have the satisfaction that I will. Do you think Heathcliff cares about God?
No.
I wouldn't if I were him. He says, I only wish I knew the best way. Let me alone and I'll plan it out. While I'm thinking of that, I don't feel pain. When I am thinking of what, I don't feel pain. Revenge. Okay? So he's like, look, I'm in pain. Here's my pain circle. But magically, when I start planning Hindley's revenge, it cancels out the pain. Thinking of vengeance removes my suffering. This is why he's willing to suffer to get vengeance. Because to him, that vengeance cancels out the suffering. The suffering becomes insignificant. It's a temporary condition that he is, overcoming. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit back about chapter 6 when Heathcliff and Cathy show up at Thrushcrest Grange and they're standing on their tiptoes. They're peering inside. It's described as if it is what place? Heaven.
Oh.
Right? It's described as if it is heaven. It's gold and warm and glowing and beautiful, crimson and light. All these.
Both of them.
They both are like, man, it's so nice in there.
Okay.
But they are on the outside looking in. Cathy is admitted to that paradise. Heathcliff is exiled. What story does this mirror? Paradise Lost. Because Heathcliff is exiled from paradise, aka heaven. Who is he then aligned with? The devil. All right? Like a Satan character, he is kicked out. See, there was a reason that I wanted you to read Paradise Lost. Beyond the aforementioned torture.
I like Paradise Lost.
It's it's a cool story. Okay, we've talked about that. And that. And that. Why do you think Bronte shows us in these chapters that Heathcliff is willing to change himself for Cathy? Why do you think she wants us to see that? Go ahead.
You can see that love can make you do crazy things.
Right? Love can make you do crazy things. He loves her, and if he has to change who he is to get her, he will. It also allows us to have what for a future between the two of them? Hope. Now, is he changing something he shouldn't change?
Yeah. Well, it's his look, so not.
He's just cleaning up, right? Like he's literally taking a bath, right? So it's not like he's changing a core piece of his identity or who he is as a person. He's like, oh, I'm gonna, be clean and maybe try to be more polite and nice and not be rude. Are those negative changes? No. Now.
But doesn't Cathy already know the true him?
Yes, she knows the true him. That's what I was just gonna ask you. If he makes those changes for her, are they real changes? Do you change for other people? Who do you change for? Yourself. You have to want it yourself. You have to decide that you want to improve your own life and your own happiness and your own existence, not because of some external reward, whether that's a person or an object or an experience, but because you are worth that change and improvement. Okay? Life lessons from Mrs. Turner, right?
Yes.
Here, I'm hitting you heavy.
That's
Okay?
gonna go
On the life lesson list, right? On the life lesson. You have to decide that you're worth it. So it's not that he's like, oh, it's a red flag. Is she asking him to change? No. He wants to change, but that indicates that he doesn't feel he is enough for her now? Good enough. He sees that there's something flawed or something lacking. I'm not good enough for her. Is that a strong foundation for a relationship? No. There's an imbalance of perception there. Because can anybody make you feel like you are good enough, or is that something you have to internally realize? You have to internally realize it. Right? That's not something that another person can build in you. You have to figure that out. He's going to have to figure that out. I do think it's interesting that Bronte wants us to see Heathcliff as somebody who has the capacity to change, or can at least momentarily realize. But what happens to him? He tries to change, and he's what? He's beaten. He's literally punished. He's punished for trying to change. Is he going to keep trying to change?
No.
No. he's going to be like, I'm staying in this identity. When I tried to change, I got punished. So it is safer for me to be who I am, or to be the kind of person that I have always been. You know, because what do you think Heathcliff's biggest fear is?
Losing Kathy.
Losing Kathy. Remember, this is what Hindley's holding over him. If you don't obey me, what?
He'll kick Kathy out.
No, I'm not going to kick Kathy out. I'm going to kick
him out.
I'm going to kick you out. You're just a servant. I can fire you at any time.
Then where would he go?
Where would he go? Who would he have that knows him, loves him, cares about him? She is his
Motivation.
Entire world.
entire world. She is his entire world. And that, Madison, explains why she is his motivation. One more thing. When Heathcliff does this whole, this is like, this is revenge. As long as I feel revenge, or as long as I'm thinking about revenge, I don't feel pain. Who does he sound like? No, from another book.
Oh, like.
Only in
Expectations.
nope. Only in destruction do I find my ease. Satan. Right? It's like they could be the exact same speaker. You guys, all you have to read is the next chapter. So chapter 8.
8, yeah.
Yeah, chapter 8.